theory of relativity. According to Newton's hypothesis, F is equal to ma, where mass is considered as a constant. So it is based on the absolute space and time hypothesis. So more than 200 years, constancy of mass was not doubted by anyone. In year 1905, Albert Einstein challenged and demolished the concept of absolute space and time and gave a new idea of relativity or relative space and time. So Galilean transformation equations, Laurent transformation equations have been used by physicists and try to extend the common sense to the fast moving objects. So in 1678, the story begins, and Huygen studied the nature of light. At that time, study of sound has been completed almost, and it was established for the propagation of sound waves, some medium is required. So in analogy to the propagation of sound wave, Huygens suggested that light light is also wave, and thus it requires some medium for its propagation. So he thought that, and not only thought, he postulated that the light waves are a longitudinal wave, and they require some medium, and he named that medium as that hypothetical medium is named as luminiferous ether. So what is luminiferous ether? So luminiferous ether is the hypothetical medium which one believe or which Huygens believes that it is required for the propagation of light waves from and he further explained that this ether exists from interatomic spaces to intergalactic space. So this ether cannot be visualized, cannot be seen, but it is only hypothetical concept. So later on, as it has been established that light is not a longitudinal, it is a transverse wave, and one step further, light requires no medium that we can say light can travel through vacuum also. So there is no question of ether right now, but how that wrong supposition that was postulated by Huygens in 1678 was demolished, that is an interesting story. In 1864, Maxwell proved that light is an electromagnetic wave, and it can travel with very high speed, that is 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 meter per second. So if ether exists, then ether should behave as a rigid solid medium with very low density, because velocity, Newton's formula for velocity of wave is under root E upon rho, where E is the elasticity and rho is the density. So these two parameters for this high value of V for the electromagnetic wave contradict each other. So thus ether was assumed that it provides as a frame of reference at absolute rest and for all bodies, for absolute rest and motion for all bodies with respect to it. So after that, various attempts were made to detect the relative motion of Earth through the ether. According to classical law of velocity addition uh, theory, velocity addition formula, relative motion of Earth in ether, the velocity of light with respect to Earth in the direction of motion of Earth is c minus v, where c is the speed of light and v is the velocity of Earth with respect to ether. So in a direction, in opposite direction, it should be c plus v according to velocity addition formula. So famous experiment was performed by A. Michelson independently in 1881, then in 1887 in collaboration with E.W. Morley at Cleveland. This experiment is called Michelson Morley experiment, and it laid the experimental foundation of the theory of relativity. So this experiment is used or aimed to detect whether ether exists or not, or if it exists, then how, what are its properties, and if it does not exist, then how we can demolish the 200-year back hypothesis of Huygen. So that is a very interesting experiment on which the theory of relativity is based. The beauty of this experiment is that in an attempt, Michelson and Morley, in an attempt to detect the ether, but they indirectly suggested the new, indirectly initiated the new branch of physics, that is theory of relativity, on which later on Einstein contributed a lot. So the basic concept which is used to prove that whether ether exists or not can be explained with an example of this canal in which water is flowing from left to right, and suppose this canal has the width of capital D, and there is a boat B1, and the boat has to travel in a round trip. That means it has to travel distance d in this direction and come back to the starting position. Suppose that this boat takes time t1, and similarly the boat moving in the downstream same distance d and come back to the starting point, that is upstream, and that is the time taken by the boat in doing this is t2. Okay, and let small v vector is the velocity of water with respect to earth, and v is the velocity of the boat with respect to water. So when the boat moving perpendicular to the direction of the flow of water, in order to reach on the opposite bank at the same point, the boat has to move in at some angle with the flow of water. Suppose the boat is B1 moving in this direction OL, and flow of water convert its velocity into this direction. That means the resultant velocity is V dash vector. So the V dash magnitude according to the triangle of vector addition, v vector is equal to v square minus small v square under root. So as a result, this time t1 is equal to 2d upon v dash. That is the resultant velocity. Similarly, in the second case, in which the boat b1 move in the downstream and the b come back in the upstream, in that case the velocity addition formula is used, and the time taken by the boat in that case is t2 to complete the round trip, that is d upon v plus small v and t upon v minus small v. So t2 comes out to be 2 dv upon v square minus small v square. So when we take the ratio of these two times, t1 upon t2, it comes out to be under root 1 minus v square upon capital V square. So here small v is the velocity of water with respect to earth. So if v is as 0, if the ether it is water is compared with the ether, if ether exists and it is at rest, then this t1 and t2 must be equal to t1 by t2 must be equal to 1, because v is equal to 0. So by knowing the values of t1, t2, capital V, small v can be calculated. So if ether exists and it is moving, then we can calculate its velocity with respect to earth, or earth velocity of earth with respect to ether, or so this method can be used. So now we have to devise some, so the Michelson Morley have to devise some experiment which can prove that T1, T2, whether it is equal to 1 or not equal to 1. So that is the Michelson Morley experiment. That is all for the story before the start of Michelson Morley experiment.